Uz spektakularni Daft Punk, DJ Bizo, hvala ti. Idemo na idući panel. Dame i gospodo, smjestite se, ovo će biti jako zanimljivo. Prije svega napomena, biti će na engleskom cijeli panel, jel tako, ako se ne varam? So we'll switch to English right now. The upcoming panel, Understanding China, powered by Omoda and Jay Koo. Did I pronounce it correctly, Your Excellency? I did. I've been practicing today. So there's no doubt about it that China is reshaping the global landscape. It has become a leader in both technology and business and social media as well, with TikTok and everything that's happening on the global landscape. We'll explore that subject and everything that will await for us in the future, possibly. More of that and more about it with our upcoming speakers. So let's give a warm welcome to our panelists and to our moderator. First of all, here as the ambassador, is the dog barking at me? I'll have some safe difference. The ambassador of China to Croatia, His Excellency Qi Tianjin, Johan Tuting, Ivica Bakota, and our moderator, Hrvoje Krešić. Let's give him a warm welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, good day, good afternoon, and welcome to our next panel. It's always a challenge to be... Well, speaking of challenges... Welcome.
Hey, buddy.
Maybe he speaks Chinese.
I believe he expects a greeting.
Here we go.
And now you've got one back. Well, how can we possibly have a better introduction to our panel, Understanding China, than this? It's my great honor and a privilege to be here today. Your Excellency, let's begin with you. For decades, China has had a global image of the biggest factory of the world. And now we have this. How did it come to this?
Okay, thank you, Dobry den, dobrodošli. It's my gratitude to be here and have the chance to talk with Croatian friends on China. So in terms of the China transformation from so-called the world factory to today's the center of innovation and technology, you know, I'm born in 1960. My generation could be one of the happiest and luckiest generation in China, witnessing, enjoying whole process of reforming and opening up. You know, in the later 20th century, China pursued a policy opening up and reform. In that time, the Chinese economic model living on exports and also living on labors and scale. As well, we enjoy really globalization. But today is what happened in China. China is also transiting from a so-called world factory to the center of innovation and technology in the world. And the Chinese government has paid importance to investment in developing research and technology and innovation. And the R&D the budget in China has been reached about 2.6 of the GDP. It's equally the 3% of the European defense budget as required by some countries. So if you visit China, you find technology innovation changing China. For example, in a factory in Beijing of Xiaomi producing iPhone. I'm using the iPhone of Xiaomi. The factory of the Xiaomi, in fact, in Beijing, no light out, almost dark. With a minimum, the people's intervention, they use more robots, the machine, robot arms, as well artificial intelligence. This factory produces yearly 10 million cell phones I'm holding now. In addition, the DeepSeek, the language model innovated by Chinese small company in Hangzhou, more people, Chinese people using it. Not only a language model for communication for code, but industry manufacturers try to use it because it's open resources as well analytical capabilities for manufacturing and industry. As well, Jingdong is the first online shopping as a Tmall in Europe. You can find the whole supply chain autonomous, using of artificial intelligence or technology. So generally speaking, China has to be changing, transforming from old models because we are facing challenges, internal, external. So-called, we have to pursue policy, new quality, we call it a new quality of productive force. What is it? That's innovation and technology.
Thank you so much. Now, let's switch our focus to automobile industry. Jochen, you've spent your entire career in the automobile industry. Why would you say to anybody, why would I buy a Chinese car?
Well, first of all, I cannot really answer why you should buy a Chinese car. I can tell you why you should buy a no motor or a Jacu, obviously.
Okay.
But no, seriously. I think first of all, if you look at the tremendous change that the Chinese automotive industry went through within the last decade, it's absolutely astonishing. And we just talked about it when I came back first time to China after COVID. Those 2.5 years of development have been absolutely impressive for me when I came back to Shanghai for the first time and saw suddenly 50% of the cars on Shanghai roads were locally produced electric vehicles. So when you look at the change and rapid change in the industry, there was a phase of catching up to international standards, but the pace has been moving on since then, and therefore, at least in some of the areas, I see the Chinese manufacturers now in the lead. And what makes us very confident with the European market is that we really try to focus not only bringing Chinese cars to Europe, but we have formed our own R&D center in Germany, Frankfurt, already 7 years ago. So we are working very, very hard to ensure that we are not only following the local regulatory requirements, but they really try to deeply understand the local customer requirements and therefore have a big team of local engineers adapting our cars for the European markets to make sure that people here really get a vehicle that is fully competitive with the local competition.
Would you say that the sentiment of the European customer is changing towards when we talk about and when they talk about and think about Chinese vehicles?
Definitely yes. I mean, first appearance of Chinese OEMs more than 15 years ago was obviously not very successful, right? We had those big problems with crash testing, for example, and there was a big question mark about whether people can or cannot trust vehicles from China. If you look at what happened since, I mean, the cars that you see outside, the Omoda and Jeku vehicles, they all received a 5-star Euro NCAP rating. So we have shown clearly that from a technology perspective, you can trust these cars as much as you can trust Western vehicles. And what we've seen over time, and other Chinese companies, technology companies, have actually helped us. Like if you look at Huawei becoming one of the dominant players in the mobile phone segment. So we see a lot of people realizing that, okay, when I'm buying a product, a Chinese product, it used to be maybe in the old days something maybe cheap, but now we have technology products still at a very good value for money proposition, but it's high technology. And that's where we see a shift in customer acceptance of Chinese products. And we see now, especially in electric mobility or everything that goes into electrification, that a lot of customers even see the Chinese OEMs in the lead, and therefore there's very high acceptance in the European markets, yes.
Thank you so much. Ivica, talking about this shift from being the biggest factory in the world to what China is today, and speaking in cultural and historical terms, how does that kind of perspective look like?
Well, that's a very good question, but it requires very complex answer. I should say also it should be also the most expensive answer in today's business world. Why? Because most of the people, when they try to explain how China succeeded, right, from the underdeveloped economy 50 years ago up to now one of the biggest economies in the world, second only to the United States, they usually put some kind of tags. So is it like a state capitalism? Is it like this hybrid capitalism and so on? Most of the time it's like this, just as I said, just puts a tag on this really complex process. But I should say the same thing as it works now between China as a state, between Chinese market and Chinese society that makes this really interesting dynamism worked also 30 years ago when all this reform and opening up have started. Here I should also say, now it became very catchy phrase to say China is starting to actually losing this world factory tag, right? However, and it's becoming more I guess now is the term kind of innovation lab, right? It's something that maybe some other Asian tigers also went through, and maybe eventually in the 10 years or maybe 15, it will become I don't know, designer studio or something like that, right? Eventually, at the end, in this progressivist perspective, maybe we'll become an executive board of the world or maybe something similar. However, as compared to other Asian tigers that underwent the same kind of process, like Japan, South Korea, and so on, China is still big economy. It's a big society. So as long as maybe in 10 years we will have more of cultural products coming from China, now maybe just ushered by Labubu or things like that, China will still be a factory, global factory of the world for some time. Well, of course, this is also because of specific differences in China, having coastal areas, big cities that whose GDP is like comparable to the Western countries, but also China is still China inward, China inland areas of provinces that are yet to struggle to attain this kind of level that the coastal areas have.
Would you say, is there any doubt anymore that Chinese capacities and Chinese capabilities, especially in fields of high technology and AI, are shaping global competition and global industry today?
Well, definitely. I mean, you don't have to be much like clairvoyant to see, like, first of all, these electric vehicles, renewable energy, these two sectors, I think, like, where China is dominating at least the last couple of years. I mean, at least after a COVID period, right? But I think also in the next near future, we will see more Chinese global presence in all of these like internet, retail purchase services, right? So far, I think most of us know there was a Alibaba, now we have a Temu. In the future, they might be more of those platforms that will be probably used by most of the world, right?
Your Excellency, let's turn to you once again. Do you believe that there are any differences or complications between cultures when it comes to Chinese culture and, let's say, European culture in doing business, or are there only bridges to be built?
Certainly, yeah. We are the people, the Chinese, Asians, Croatian, German, European are located in another continent. It's normal. We have differences in ideology and political system. But the differences don't stop us to pursue more cooperation. So, you know, as we are Chinese, we are grown, we are influenced by Confucius. Confucius teaches, you know, when we try to pursue business or relationship with others, we should preserve the differences and seeking for a common interest. So as Confucius say, 基于人而达人，基于利而利人，基于达而达人. That in Chinese means if you try to establish yourself, help others establish themselves. If you try prosper, help others to prosper. So in our ideology, our principle, our philosophy, even applied in our business management, we have to be seeking win-win cooperation. Certainly in terms of our Chinese culture, the habits, we have some difference. For example, if you deal with Chinese businessmen, we are getting used to be implicitly, not so directly as European. So the Chinese businessmen try to spend a long time to establish a relationship and network, you know, to become familiar each other. So if you're dealing with Chinese, yes, if you, vice versa, you know, I'm leaving Croatia, I'm posting Croatia. Also, I understood if your Chinese businessmen come to Croatia, we should know the rules, the laws and regulation. If you go to China, you should know the Chinese the language, Chinese culture. So I think it's not difficult. The Chinese man, Chinese culture are not more and not less. We have difference, but try to be engaged and understand the differences, but seeking common interest.
Speaking about Confucius and his thought that you now have quoted, where do you see opportunities for European companies when they are trying to enter and prosper in Chinese market?
Okay, so we have now a successful example for foreign businessmen engaging in China. For example, in Germany, BMW, Mercedes, you know, all car producers, they're doing well business in China. So 30% of BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen are sold in China. That approve German and including European non-China culture, no Chinese market very well. If you are required to give some advices, a recommendation for businessmen, I think it could be 3 points. First, try to be efficiency. What China has gained, has earned, so today's development, because we use it every time. We Chinese always say time is money. So in the last 40 years, we use every opportunity, every seconds, every hours. So Chinese government is quite the quick efficiency. So my first advice is try to be the quick and make decision and quick, and pursue the business. Yesterday I participated in the opening ceremony for the BYD, the opening the second showroom in Zagreb. The young guy, the CEO of the BYD for European region, he told me he just spent a number of months to get deal with Otto Harwaski to manage opening the showroom in Zagreb. That shows Chinese speed, Chinese efficiency. This is the first advice. The second, try to be localized. Today's BYD or Chery or Geely, they entered the European market, but we are not keen only sell our products. We try to be localized. We try to learn to share our experiences, our technology experience with the European. So if you go to China, try to be localized, set up joint venture. Since China's government has opened up more sectors to foreigners, including European, like medication, manufacture, entertainment. So grasp time and localize their business. The third, the focus emphasis on young people's interest. So we have now the Z generation, Alpha generation, but in China cases, we have to look out. We have to explore what young people they like, their demand requirements. So just focus on your products, adapting the young people, young generation requirements. So there's 3 points, 3 advices I try to share with all of you.
Thank you so much. Jochen, to get back to you, with Chinese car market growing and developing, how difficult is it to distinguish yourself as one certain brand of Chinese automobile industry from other parts when it comes to communicating to European markets and European customers?
Yeah. Well, it's good. I learned something today. I wasn't aware that one of our key business philosophy is coming from Confucius, actually. But it's really differentiating us from my point of view, because what Chery is doing and Omoda and Jaku is doing is that we strongly believe in local partnerships. And we strongly believe, or we're fully aware that we are a new entrant into the European market and that we are a new player and that we have to learn a lot. And it's best to learn from the locals who have done or have worked in this business for a long, long time. And that's our basic business philosophy. And you can see that from the fact that we formed a joint venture in Spain, for example. So we are the first Chinese OEM with local production in Barcelona, the former Nissan plant. And we're really trying, we call it in somewhere, for somewhere. We want to be in Europe, for Europe, with a local team, working with the local partners and making sure that we generate true win-win situations. So the better the business for our partners, the better the business for us. So that's on the business side, how we approach our European launch and entry. And then on the product side, it's what I mentioned in one of the earlier questions already. I think all OEMs are claiming that they're extremely customer-centric. But in our case, I really can say we are customer-centric, and we listen very carefully to our local partners, our local customers, and that's why we are dedicating so much efforts in the engineering work in the European markets to really make sure that we can deliver the products to European requirements. And there's also the speed part of it, is that we are in very close collaboration with our engineering teams in China. So whenever we need to run through an iteration of an engineering solution, it's extremely fast, and it really helps us that there's a 6 or 7 hours time difference, because in a lot of cases we come up with some proposals in the evening, we come back in the morning hours, and the solution has already been developed, and we're extremely fast in these iterations, not only developing but also bringing them into the vehicles and then bringing them to our final customers.
Now, once you buy a car, you have to maintain it. One of the issues, or one of the pre-assumptions regarding cars coming from the Far East, we're talking now about European customers, is that if you buy a Japanese car or Korean car, you will have issues with spare parts and with servicing. Is that an issue that you deal with as well? Do you see that when you talk with customers, that they are afraid, when you buy a Volkswagen, you know that you'll find the spare part just around the corner within the next 2 days?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's a key concern also from customers. And as I said, we're listening closely to customers, so we are trying to avoid this kind of situations. Specifically in Croatia, I mean, we're working with our local partner as a distributor, and this local partner has a lot of experience, has warehouses available, is dealing with other brands already, so the infrastructure is fully available. And I can give you an example. When we launched in Spain, Spain was our pilot market in Europe, February last year. We had a target of 95% delivery rate of spare parts overnight, so within 24 hours, and we're right now at 99%. So 99% of components, you go to your workshop, you have an issue with your car, 99% of the components will be there within 24 hours. And that's how we are trying to approach that.
Great, thank you. Ivice, for decades, if not even centuries, Europe has looked upon China as being better, more competitive, etc. Now we see that the global playing field is leveling. What do you think European companies can learn from Chinese companies and Chinese mind frame?
Well, definitely there's this efficiency. And I would agree with Mr. Ambassador when he mentioned the localization is really important. Knowing what this market preferences are, especially for those companies that are already present in China. Now, I guess most of people know that there is this huge 100 million big Chinese middle class that craves for European high-end products and so on. For European companies that cater to this class, to this group of people, it's important to get more localized. Actually, let me tell you a story. Like, for example, when I arrived for the first time in China, like kind of 15 years ago, most of this junior management from European companies that will come to Beijing and Shanghai, these French companies, would just stay for a couple of years, right? And then they will move somewhere else, like India or Latin America or something like that. And eventually they will probably assume some kind of senior management position, right? I guess now this kind of trajectory is less possible. So for people that are specialized in selling those high-end products in China, they should get more dedicated, having this kind of long-term commitment in China. That starts also with learning all these cultural differences that I have mentioned, language, definitely, and most of it, they have to stay longer there in China.
Time flies, so we are about to finish our discussion, and for that I wish to ask you, Your Excellency, how do you see the development of the cooperation between China and Europe, but Croatia specifically, within the next 10 years?
Okay, so these days we have witnessed new mentality and new opportunity between China and European countries, including Croatia. And last July, there was a summit meeting between China and the European leaders. Madame von der Leyen and Mr. Costa, two leaders, European Union, paid visit China and met with President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Li Qiang. So this summit meeting, I think, is a benchmark for strengthening our ties, bilateral ties. So two sides, two leaders from Europe and from China promised and pledged to strengthen, upgrade the two sides of business and trade relations. Particularly, we should pursue more cooperation in technology, artificial intelligence, technology, green transformation, technology of the digital transformation. So therefore, I think politically, both sides, European Union and China, are opening up a positive and encourage more business and trade. So I think political support is a solid foundation. Besides that, China economy is stable, is developing. Even we have more and less the problems than other countries. But China is transforming, as I introduced before, from the so-called old factory to the more new quality of productive and force, innovation technology. So China's stability, I think, is the biggest contribution to the economy. So I think it's the next few years, next decades, will still be a good opportunity for pursuing more business trade between European and China, and including Croatia.
Thank you so much. From the perspective of automobile industry, how big of a growth do you expect in terms of share of the European market for Chinese companies in the next 10 years?
Well, I think it's hard to forecast a true percentage. What we are currently seeing is that there's a big number of Chinese companies coming into the European market, and I'm very glad that we as Chery and Omoda and Jeku are one of the first entrants, because I strongly believe that there will be some level of consolidation at some point in time, and Chery is set up very strongly internationally. We're, for the last 22 years, the biggest exporter of vehicles from China, and we obviously hope that Europe will play an important role to maintain that position in the future. But yeah, I think we've seen in the past the Japanese companies came to Europe, they gained their market share. We saw the same happening with the Korean vehicles over time, and I think the same will happen now with the Chinese. So I'm absolutely sure that they will find their place in the European automotive sales world. To what percentage also depends on the quality and the right positioning of our products for the market, and I'm very confident for us.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Steve, how do you see the development of the relationship, especially economic relationship between China and European Union, and possibly even Croatia within the next decade?
Well, if we try to avoid the politics, which it's going to be like, I mean, definitely for these two global players would be a really important field. All these geopolitical fluctuations and so on, assuming that I guess European Union as a whole and all the European countries take this prudent, this pragmatic engagement with China, I think there is the very open and wide field of these innovative partnerships that can come along, right? So again, maybe some point from the history. So in the 80s, when China started to open up and all of these joint ventures came to China from Europe, from the United States and so on, the whole model is something that was operationalized actually there. Now we might for the first time see the brain work of such models coming from China. I don't know. I don't know if you have a time, but basically there is already a phrase called reverse Deng, saying that just like China had acquired all this know-how during the 80s and 90s from Europe, from the United States, Europe should do the same thing in the next decade, especially regarding these fields where China is cutting edge.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, thank you for your thoughts, and thank you for your patience. And we invite you for our next panel. Thank you so much.
it, use it, break it, fix it, trash it, change it, melt, upgrade it,
Još jednom
chart it,
hvala
point it,
našim
zoom it,
panelistima.
press it, snap it.
Vjerujem da vam je ovo bilo itekako zanimljivo. E sad kad ja kažem linolada break, dosta važno.